All right. Hello. Hello. Good afternoon. Welcome to our Amplified Solutions webinar. My name is Lee Adkins. I'm the Chief Learning Officer at Amplified Solutions, and I'm hanging out with my good friend and amazing COO, Chris McDonough.
Hello, how are ya?
I am good. I'm excited to get into some technical tech stack stuff.
Yeah, I think this is a really timely topic because I was looking online in some Facebook groups earlier this week and people were saying, "Hey, who has a recommended tech stack?" And I was like, "Ooh, we planned this a couple weeks ago. We know about this." So I want to set some expectations about what we're doing today because we're in real estate. It's all about setting expectations. So, first and foremost, we are education first. So, we have a 2-minute sales pitch, for lack of a better word, information session for 2 minutes at the end, very end, about what we do. We're with Amplified Solutions. We're going to tell you about what we do and how we help people like you optimize and set up their follow-up boss accounts. So we're going to do that at the end, but everything else is going to be information and about recommended tech stacks. So we are going to share a guide with you here in a little bit. And that guide is going to have links to every single piece of technology that either we use or our clients use. We serve clients all over North America, from teams from anywhere from 20 to 200 plus people. So we know the gamut of the technology, and this is who we know and trust. So we're going to share that with you. There's links if you want to learn more about like who's Fellow and what do they do? What's Curator? What's Whitley? It's linked there for you. We're going to keep this brief and very sort of a global 10,000-foot view of how you need to approach your decision making and making these. Unfortunately, no one wants to sit on a webinar where we're figuring out what specifically works for which company because there's too many variables. We would need to sit down and consult with you on that. So if that's something you're interested in, again, we'll tell you about that at the end, but we want to make sure you're not disappointed. You will get a guide with links to everything we're talking about, but we're not going to give you a definitive list of, well, if you have 5 agents, you have to have these 5 things. Again, that's everything we do is custom.
A lot of nuance
We
to
don't feel
that.
like that's in your best interest.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of nuance to that. And let's briefly, Chris, give a little bit of background. I think sometimes, I know I get excited and dive right in, but let's give a little bit of your background and I'll give a little my real estate background too. Just so I think all too often people think like, oh, you just do tech stuff. But you and I have also obviously very much operated in the real estate space for a long time.
Yes, absolutely. So I was the broker in charge and vice president of a large real estate team in South Carolina and North Carolina, of about 225 plus agents. So I'm well versed in growing and scaling a large team from about 50 agents to 225 plus. So I'm excited to share all the things I learned to do and what not to do because mistakes were made. Because
Yeah,
that's the learning piece is the what not to do.
what not to
Um,
do. That's
but yeah, it's so that's what brought me to Amplified Solutions is wanting to share and help people on a larger scale. And you have a very great real estate background.
I got my license in '06. I was a solo agent. I've literally worn every hat in the business, solo agent, team member, all partner brokerage, all the above. But my real deeper experience in 2012, I started running operations for an existing team here in Atlanta that really had no structure, and brought it to just maybe a ridiculous amount of structure to some of you, but true handbooks, manuals, processes for everything, staff with job descriptions, everybody knew what to do. Pretty successful, top, one or two in Atlanta consistently, and top 125 at Keller Williams consistently when that team was being run there. So just good to give a little context. I think sometimes we jump right into the tech and people don't know that we've actually literally done this and grown our own teams and brokerages, as well as doing it with people on a consulting basis every day. So I'm also going to drop a quick link to our YouTube channel. We have a ton of free content there. If you're interested, subscribe, turn on alerts. These webinars always end up there. Tons of short form content, tons of playlists to help train your agents, train yourself on a lot of these tech tools, because these are the ones that we frequently recommend and see people work for people. So without further ado, what is a tech stack? If you ever seen a webinar I'm on, this is pretty much my open. What are we talking about today? Let's define it before we talk about it.
Let's start with the definition. So your tech stack is all of the tools, the software, the integrations to your CRM and including your CRM that you use to run your day-to-day business. So everything from communicating to your agents, to managing your transactions, to marketing and generating leads, all of the tools that you use, that's what makes up your tech stack. I'm going to put in the chat our link to
Unless,
the Google.
oh, perfect.
Not the
Yeah,
one you shared, the other one.
go for it. So yeah, so it's really all the tools. I think sometimes people are like, well, is that tech stack? Is that tech stack? Like, yes, if you pay for it and or have a login, it's part of your tech stack. And really important too to keep these things aligned. One of the best things with our team, we were early Follow Up Boss users in 2013. And one of the best things that ever happened was, number one, I had a budget because we ran a company. And number two, if it doesn't integrate or if I can't make it work fairly seamlessly with Follow Up Boss, guess what? I don't need it. I don't need 5 other places for people to log in. Now, granted, Follow Up Boss has come a long way with the integrations, Zapier, there's a million things you can do now, but really important to select things that work together and aren't super fragmented. So to Chris's earlier point, that's really the focus today, is at a high level, how to help make those decisions and find the pieces that are right for you. There's no way we can prescribe for you, use this tool instead of this tool because you're this size or your business model is going to become this, or you're a brokerage versus a team. So we're going to do our best to give you high level. And something else I love to talk about in tech stack, I used to say this to people all the time. They'd be like, what do you use for that? I'd be like, a person. Our transaction coordination system was not complicated. We had a full-time employee that did transaction coordination. What I did was design a very simple cover sheet so the agent could turn in all the details of said contract to said person. And by the way, the process was send it to contracts@ourteamname.com, which went to her. It went to me so I could say, hey, congrats on the new contract, stuff like that. So we're not always saying this is crazy integrations and Zapier and all those things. Sometimes it's just a human in this role. They might be using some software and tools in the background, but really important to differentiate. We're not trying to AI and automate everything here. This is also about the humans that are using these tools.
Yes, and especially if you are a smaller team, knowing that difference between, do I need a system or do I need software for this? And that most often, if you have neither, you're going to want to start with a system that people can follow, but that will save you money too. Well, let's talk about how to evaluate. So we are growing. We're getting agents to come in. Our transaction count is going up. Things are going well, but internally, it's a mess. We need to get organized. We need some better tools.
Yeah, I already.
Value?
Oh, sorry, we had a little internet break there, a little lapse in internet.
Oh no.
But yeah, I think the first two pieces of that are the ones I already mentioned. The cost.
Okay.
Because it's super easy to be like, hey, $19.99, $59.99, $9.99, and then all of a sudden it's $3,000. So you should have a budget, and that should help you say, hey, I'm not going to spend money on this until we get rid of this. And really, like, I can't say that enough. I'm gonna stop saying it after this, but like, cost is a really important factor. And I think, again, as markets change, as things change, just being really smart about that. And the integration of the Follow Boss. You know, if it doesn't integrate and it's going to cause problems, they have to go log in somewhere else or add the lead to another system, you're not going to get adoption. It's going to cause problems, and it's going to be harder to move away from it a year from now than to just cut the cord. So,
Yeah.
um, also, how much setup is needed? And are you equipped to do this? Did they set it up for you and then it runs magically in the background on tags? Great. Are you going to have to build out a system for this thing to work? All things you want to be asking on these sales calls. What kind of support do I get from you? Do you have pre-written training we can incorporate into ours? Things you want to understand before you just buy it and go, oh crap, now I have to spend 20 hours building it and then we have to roll it out. So again, just your bandwidth tied to that. And I think another piece that's really important, although I'll put a big caveat on it, just asking other people, are you using this? Is it great? Don't necessarily ask the people that are on the website as the top team on the planet using this tool. You know, there are plenty of resources, the Follow Up Boss Facebook group, other Facebook groups, to just ask, is anybody, or search them. If you don't want to post and get a bunch of responses, search these groups for the tool name and see what people say. We did that for a year and it was garbage. I wish I had my $24,000 back. Like, but also I
Yeah.
think it's important to take that with a grain of salt because people don't implement well, people don't train their team on it. And so just one person saying, well, we did it forever and it was terrible. You don't know if they had staff to help implement it. You don't know if they ever even set it up right. So grain of salt, but do your own research too.
Right. And I think another piece to this, and we can do a whole webinar on it, is how to roll something like this out to your team. Because even if it's just for your internal people to learn how to use the software, it's going to take more than them watching one YouTube video. That's why we have an entire business. If Follow Up Boss could send you a 1 hour video and teach you everything on how to effectively use Follow Up Boss, we wouldn't have a business. Software is very complicated, and it can be very simple. But as your organization grows, as you have these integrations and automations and systems within systems, there's a lot for people to remember. And in our industry of real estate, there's a lot to remember at a baseline. So having a plan for your training to roll out and thinking about the necessity, how much that needs, like Lee said, do they train for you? Do they have resources that you can have on hand? Because your people aren't going to remember from that one training. They need something to refer to, like a handbook or a cheat sheet. So factor that in on your bandwidth, because the cost isn't just about money. It's about your time and your resources. Are you going to have to pull someone from their day job to go around to your 8 offices and train your team on Follow Up Boss? So think about those things as well, as the financial cost of bringing on a new software.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was really well said. And the last piece too is this really solving a pain point? Like, is this a 20% problem? Or did you just watch a webinar and you're like, this is amazing. I need this thing. Let me pull out my credit card and get the 22% discount for being on today. Like, really, really, really important. You know, and I'm not saying, look, we love technology. We love to try new stuff. We love to know the latest and greatest and how does it work and what can it do. But, you know, is it really solving a pain point, or are you just tacking on yet another thing that's going to jumble up your CRM and keep agents from calling because they're playing around in the back end of some tool instead of doing the work? So
Right.
enough on that, but I think not enough people do those. And I think also not enough people talk about those things that, like, you should have a process. Like, you should decide, is it in my budget? Does it integrate? Are people going to use it? Do we have some help in getting it adopted? So, Chris, I'm going to go. I know we have some topics written out here in our notes, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen because it's got the topics rather than read
Yeah,
them. Like, let's just
let's
look.
go.
And again, if you're joining us a little bit late or didn't catch it, we're not going to go into detail on any of these tools today, but we have literally created a guide for you that has links to all of them. These are not affiliate links. They are straight up Go check this out. If it's interesting to you, you should do it. I'll also disclaim we don't have everything on here. There are 400 real estate website providers. We ain't listing them on here. We listed the ones that we most frequently see people use and that seamlessly work in their ecosystem. If you say, I built my own custom WordPress site, or I love Agent Image, it's a great website, that's amazing. We're not suggesting you change from that to these. We're simply giving some knowledge based on what we see hundreds of people use and what seem to work and get adoption among people. So the categories we've chosen here are websites, CRM, retargeting and lead generation, which obviously is going to overlap with websites. Marketing is also going to overlap a bit with websites.
Deciding the topics for this was funny because
Like,
everything, everything has a toe over a line into something else, but we positioned it as this is the main thing that this tool accomplishes.
this is why you would be looking at this. For example, these branded mobile apps have home search built into them, but these other things don't have specific branded mobile apps. So,
Yes.
so we got that. We got home search. Obviously, that's a huge thing. And obviously, home search overlaps with websites. So, AI messaging for leads, Happy Grasshopper is not technically AI. I guess call action isn't technically AI either, but it's the essence of preformed, pre-filled, created messages that go out and engage people. So before we get any nasty grams that that's not AI, it's like, well,
they market it as AI, and it
what's
says
not
on their
AI
website.
now? I don't even know if we're real humans having this conversation anymore. So transaction management, again, there's hundreds of them. You don't even have to use a real estate specific one. You could use a project management tool for that, but these are ones that we see people use that work, that integrate and do things. Open house tools, training and intranet, finance and accounting, internal communications, which separate. I personally love to keep separate from external communications. I know if I have a Slack notification, that is my team and they need something. It's not a solicitation or a new idea or a new thing. Project management. A lot of you guys are using project management tools to help with onboarding or back end things, or like I said, even potentially transaction management. Wanted to add training separately just because Trainual is a little more specifically tied to that. And for scheduling, a system like a Calendly or MeetMe.so or all the 500 scheduling options that are out there. But again, we see people use these in ways that work. And we just thought it'd be nice to have, we're not going to tell you exactly what to use, but here's a really short list of ones that are generally all pretty good.
Yeah. And we if we have trouble with something and shake our fists at it, we don't have it on this list.
Yeah, yes.
A little aside, if you are one of our amazing clients watching this, please consult with your account manager before signing up for any new tech because you might not even need it because to Lee's point, there's a lot of overlap. You might not realize that product A accomplishes what you're about to buy product B to do. You just might not have gotten to that side of it yet. So consult with us. You might not even need the thing you think you need. And we have a lot of partnerships where we work very closely with these people and we can offer you discounts for being a client. So talk to us. Let us do our job and consult you on this.
First, do that first before you buy the thing.
Before you whip out your credit card, think of us and send us a message.
Yeah.
So let's role play for a couple more minutes and talk about the decision making. So I'm a small team, and then this exercise, a small team is 2 to 10 agents. So what's my goal? What do I need to accomplish with my tech stack?
Yeah, I think, on one level, obviously cost, revenue, if you're in a growth mode and you're just like, oh shoot, now instead of getting 100% of this money, I'm getting a 60-40 or a 50-50 split on these leads. It's tricky because you do want to future-proof your business. You do want to buy tools that you're not going to outgrow, but you also you have to be careful about leading with revenue and not just, if you build it, hopefully they will come.
Hmm.
because in real estate, that specifically is not a good strategy with a 50% plus attrition rate, all of those things. Other thoughts to, are there additional costs per user, or is this a platform cost? Is this something that can scale up with us, or maybe gets cheaper as we do add more people? Um, but again, you want to future proof it enough that you can get from 5 to 15 to 20 without burning it all down and being like, well, now we need a whole other tool. And right when you're gaining your momentum, you're like, oh, now we're setting up and training on a whole other thing. We finally just got legs to what we had. Um,
Right.
so I think that's just a really important consideration. I know we're all ambitious. I know we all want to build it and they will come. We all want to say, hey, if I buy this, oh, I mean, the classic thing in real estate, right? If you get one closing from it, it's going to pay for itself. Well,
That's new math.
yeah,
How many closings do I need to get this boat? Yeah.
right, right.
And that I really like that you said that because it's such a sort I'm thinking about Wayne's World. Remember that movie where he's like, we fear change. Like don't we don't love change as human beings. And looking down the road, if you bring on 20 new agents and they're already having to learn your systems are new to them, and then you change softwares, you end up losing people and people become disgruntled. And so even if you really only change something once a year, if someone's with you for a while, the perception might grow to be, well, we always do this.
Right.
So just being mindful of the amount of changes that you bring on. And that goes for all small, medium, and large teams.
Yeah, and I want to lean into that a little bit more because that was something I really focused on with our team as well. Just this idea that if you're constantly changing things, people aren't going to learn it because they're just going to change it again in a month or in
Mm-hmm.
3 months, and they're not going to bother to learn it because they're like, why should I learn this? Because next time there's a conference, we're going to come back with now we got this. So, and again, we're not demeaning that by any stretch. Like, it's
Yeah.
important to take a look at these things to understand them, but also not to irrationally purchase them and just have them sitting there not doing anything. So, but I think those are the key things for a smaller team. Like, plus to your point earlier, Chris, like there's a huge time cost to this. So unless you're a
Mhm.
real nerd that loves building this stuff and you're still in production and you're still supporting the company as it's growing and becoming what it is, the last thing you need to be doing is staying up every night building zaps to try to make something work, to do something if that's not really your skill set or your forte or even just something you enjoy.
And it's a tricky thing to patch a hole in your boat without taking it out of the water. You can't bring your whole operations to a halt to teach your people this new system or this new way of doing things. They have to, if you're going to survive in real estate, you have to keep your agents focused on generating more transactions. That's what brings them money, and that's what keeps the boat afloat. So you can't bring it out. I'm talking about boats a lot today. The weather's getting warmer. So you can't take your boat out of dry dock it and teach them this thing and then put it back in. You have to get that continual movement. So making sure that you're able to do that, even if it is just you and four other people, that, you have to keep them concentrating on what is going to make everyone put food on the table.
Right.
So we talked about a small company. What about medium? So this would be, in this scenario, 11 to 50 agents, a medium-sized team or brokerage. They're in growth mode. So what is it that they are going to want to focus on when it comes to their tech?
Yeah, I think, in growth mode, like I always say, this is actually the hardest part. Don't kill me if you have a 5-person team. I know that's hard, but like 11 to 50 is really freaking hard. This is the we just got 5 new agents and we just lost 4. This is the real kind of, to quote a friend of mine, this is the real kind of messy middle of all that. But I think a real focus on training, which breeds culture,
Mhm.
um, and the understanding of these tools and the understanding of your expectations, and it creates good synergies within the team where people help each other learn the tools. People want to come to trainings because it's exciting and there's maybe new people in the room, or somebody's in the room who's been doing it for a long time and they can say, oh, I just did this and I said this and they signed a buyer brokerage agreement or whatever. So yeah, there's a lot more synergy that starts to happen. But again, you can't crush that by like, here's a new tool. Here's another thing. Now we're going this way. And oh crap, by the way, now we're spending money in this mode. Unfortunately, you do have to spend some money to get to it. But the other thing that's a huge factor here, you're going to be hiring staff at this level. And that's a massive cost. It's very important. I'm not saying anything other than it's just a huge expense that's really important. But if you're in this mode and you've got 25 people, number one, you should be starting to come out of production, but you certainly need a sales manager or a director of operations, an assistant, like whatever. You need another person who's on a computer doing things to move the business forward. Um, so it really is, like I said, it's kind of that unsexy middle of just wow, all the things. So again, making changes or going over budget when you're still in this kind of, oh, we lost some people, we gained some people, we're going up, oh, the market's down, oh no, it's winter. Like all those things need to be part of that strategy.
Yeah. And I think including breaking it down mentally and deciding what are my big swings here? What is going to help? I'm having to spend more money than ever. I'm probably still in production at some point. What is going to move me forward? So, recruiting needs to be a big part of your strategy at this point because people, Sheplack says this, people bring the money or something like that. People have the money. Money moves the people. That's what he says. I don't know. I'm gonna get
It's moves the
message
people.
about that.
You're right.
You get it. So the money is in the people. So you're spending all this money on your ops. Man, I butchered that. I'm laughing in my head at myself. So you're spending all this money on ops but you need to recruit because that's what's going to get you. You can't chase the transactions, you have to chase the people. So at this point, I would really look for a recruiting strategy. Either it's us building one into your follow-up boss system that exists for you, or you bringing in an actual software to do outreach and things like that. That'll depend on your time and effort. But taking that into consideration, and then really thinking about your role at this point. And this doesn't have to do with tech, but I want to seize on this opportunity. Because if your role is the team lead and you've got between 11 and 50 agents, a lot of people are looking to you. They joined a team so that they didn't have to be marketing themselves, finding their own leads,
They
that
don't have
type.
to do all the things. They're
Exactly.
coming to you to do all these things.
Yes. So if you are up to the gills in production still and you don't have time to meet, you don't have time to look into these things yourself, and you're just sort of glossing over it, take a look at your priorities. Do you really want to have a team, or do you want to be a very high producing solo agent? Because if you have people you can trust, let them, you might want to adjust the splits a little bit if your personal income is important to you still, but start giving your transactions away. That doesn't mean you have to come completely out of production. Stay in production forever, stay sharp, know how to win at the listing table, but take a look at your time, because if you truly want to grow and develop a team, the reallocation of your time from production to working on your business and doing all this nerd stuff in the background, that is what's going to pay off for you in the long run.
Absolutely.
So
That's great.
recruiting
And that
and moving your time from producing to doing these things is really where you need to spend your energy in that medium stage.
absolutely. Which brings
All
us
right.
nicely to the large team, which again, for purposes of this, we're just saying is 50 plus, just to give it a number and kind of put some context around it. Obviously, these aren't magical numbers. Your price point matters,
Everyone
your
has their own
location matters.
definition of what a medium team is,
Right. But
including us.
really, excuse me, in that large mode, like in the large team mode or large brokerage mode, this is almost funny to say. If you've done this, you'll know what I mean. If you haven't, it might sound a little weird. It really is kind of a maintenance mode. And I don't mean that to sound easy. It is not still easy to manage 50 plus agents. But again, like at this point, you should have figured out a chunk of those tools. You shouldn't be adding a bunch of stuff. If you do add it, I didn't add this to our notes, but something I've done a lot and recommended a lot is even potentially running like a beta group with this. Like instead of rolling it out to your whole company and then finding errors or mistakes, run it
Yes.
with a sharp group of existing agents. They're going to feel special for being asked to check it out and give their feedback.
Yeah.
Or try it with newer agents as long as they're actually going to use it. But using it in some smaller segment to test things out is really wise because to stick with the boat analogy, which I love too, the bigger your boat is, like you can't just be like, hey, we're all going to go over here now. Like you got momentum
Right.
and you need to keep it. It's very,
You're
very, very important.
you're turning a battleship instead of a little skiff. And
Right.
that does, like, it's if you've ever been on a cruise, there's no turning on a dime. So that thinking about that as your organization. And I love that you brought up the beta group because that helps with not only fixing the bugs, but it fixes the problem of adoption as well from the top down. So if you get your leadership excited about your new tech, and then they get that upper echelon of agent, and it doesn't have to be high production, it just needs to be high level of understanding of the systems. If they have already adopted all the systems and they're going to be excited about it, that buzz, they're not going to be learning everything from you in the training system, the training what's the word? Training
Session.
sessions. That's a word. It started with an S. They're not going to be learning everything from you in those training sessions. They're going to be learning it from their peers. Haley, what did she say about turning in our documents? And you're going to go, oh, yeah. So having people throughout your organization that understand, because some people might not I feel like everyone should be this way since they're in real estate, but some people might be nervous to ask and say, hey, I don't understand how to do this. They're going to go to their friend. So make sure you've got your management, your upper level people, and people throughout your agent base who really understand. And that's going to help all of the adoption from top down and the middle out.
Yeah, and similar to that, to kind of piggyback on that, at that point, as discussed in the medium team, you're definitely going to have some staff, you're going to have other people. So that's an interesting, this isn't the right term to use, kind of blessing and a curse because it's more people that have to understand it. It's more people that have to be able to answer questions on it. But by the
Mhm.
same token, hopefully you're specialized at this point, right? Like you have a sales director, you have an operations, you have a tech person, maybe even. And maybe that's the person that really needs to learn that. But again, that's part of the training and the things that you as the leader, owner, whatever your role is here, have to reiterate and lean into. If they call you with a question about how does this thing work, you need to say, hey, you need to call Bobby the tech guy. That's not me. I'm not going to tell you how to create a home value thing and send it out to people and what to do when they open it. Like that's this person's lane. So, again, it's an interesting blessing and a curse because you have more people to get on the same page, but you have more people to help.
Mhm.
So, really
Yep.
important to have that clear though as well. So when you train on it, you can say, hey, if you have questions, talk to this person and they can help you.
Yeah. And also take the time. This is something we do with our clients. We create cheat sheets, handbooks, guides. It's remember you stand at the front of the room and you say, "Oh, I've told them this 1,000 times." They don't that's not how it works. They need something tangible to refer to in the moment. When they're using the software, they need to know exactly where to find those things. So build that resource library for your people, arm them with tools for them to help themselves, and make sure they can easily find it. And it's going to make that extra 5 minutes to type it out and share it with everybody. Oh, it saves you hours of time in the long run.
Right. Absolutely. That's very, very, very well said. So I just dropped a link into the guide. I think we had some other people hop on a little bit later. Just wanted to make sure people have it. It's the same link we shared before. I just wanted to drop it in again to make sure everybody got it. But to kind of take us out, and then like we said, we'll give a short, what we do. If you're interested, stick around. If you're not, totally good, totally get it. But I think, for me, leaning back in kind of full circle to kind of the first things I said, I think just being really clear on your model and your goals and your strengths is the best way to make good tech stack decisions. I'm not going to have the time to build this out. So yeah, it sounds sexy. Yeah, everybody on Facebook is screaming that it's great, but I don't have the bandwidth nor the interest to spend 20 hours trying to get this set up, then showing it to people, then getting just being real about that is going to save you a lot of pain and certainly some or a lot of money. And then obviously the second piece of that, what I mentioned at least thrice, is just having a budget. You just can't be like, oh, it's only $500 a month. Oh, this one's only $1,000 a month. Those add up very quickly, I'm sure, as many of you know. But I think those would be my two pieces of advice: is just be real about what you're trying to do in your model and where that fits, and be smart with your money.
Right. And I think this general practice, and I think this is sort of a recurring theme of all of our webinars, is just to slow down and really evaluate and think about where this connects to other pieces of your business, how it affects the people within your business. And if you take that time with your actions as a leader in an organization, everything's going to go much smoother. It's the reactiveness, it's the quick to click type of thing that kind of gets you in trouble. So I know we live in a busy world, but slowing down is always in your best interest. All right. Thank you. We kept our promise and kept this short. We're going to email the recording out tomorrow and have links to everything we discussed today. So I see a lot of you in the document right now. Awesome. So this ends our webinar information, but I wanted to take exactly 2 minutes and tell you about Amplified Solutions and what we do. So the problem that we solve for our clients is that they come to us and they don't have systems set up within Follow Up Boss accounts. So their agents don't understand what they need to be doing or how to do it. They aren't monitoring the leads within their database and how they're worked. They don't have systems for accountability. And we solve that for them by setting up, it's kind of like the team leader we talked about earlier. They're in that transition phase of trying to get out of production, and there's just only so much time, especially when you're trying to serve clients well. So it's not their fault. It's the nature of the beast as you grow a team. So we solve this problem for our clients by setting up proven systems that we use with all of our clients across North America. We train their teams. We provide them with written handbooks, guides, SOPs, and then we hook them up with an awesome account manager who oversees the leads within their account. We nudge their agents to keep their data integrity high, and we help them convert more leads into transactions. So if you want to find out more about what we do, amplifiedsolutions.com, and we have a free assessment so you can get an in-depth view of your account, and we'll give you some advice on what we can do for you. You can also just book a call. All right. I think I might have done that in less than 2 minutes.
I think it was less than 2 minutes. Very impressive.
Thank you so much for being here today. We hope this was helpful to you. And if you need anything, we're here to support you. Thanks for being here.